What up, what up? Episode 17 of Iconic. Tonight we got a very special episode for you guys. Very special guest. We actually got my brother joining Tony and I in the hot seat tonight. So big shout out to my brother for coming on to Iconic. The guy just got back from Italy, which is a country that he's explored extensively. Knows quite a bit about this country, especially those southernmost regions. So we're going to dive into that tonight. And he did also just get engaged on his last trip to Italy.
Congrats, Dami.
Congrats, Dami. Welcome to Iconic. Cheers, boys.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
You know, for the occasion, we had to bring out the Aperol.
We had to bring out the Aperol. We had to bring out the fig tree, as you guys can see in the back. Cheers, boys. It's an Italian pod.
Thank you guys for having me.
So, man, how was it, dude? How'd you like your trip over there, bro? You had a good time?
Dude, I had an awesome time there. I went out there with Rose's family, my fiance, and I have to say it's been a great experience. I love Italy so much.
You said the weather was just like blistering hot out there, like you can't even go out during the day, right?
Oh my God, the weather is extremely hot. Every time you take a shower and you walk out the door, you literally got to go back in and take another shower.
You got to go right back and take another shower.
That's literally how hot it is. It's insane.
Dom, you know what blew my mind when we all went together to Rome, which, by the way, was one of my favorite trips ever. I can't believe how hot it actually gets in Italy. Like, you know, I think, you know, you're out in Europe, it's September, it's kind of like when we were in Prague or like when we were like in other parts of Europe.
Yeah.
Like, dude, it gets warm out there, man.
Dude, I joke with my buddy who's in Puglia, which is, you know, the region that I typically go to when I go to Italy.
Right.
And I literally tell him, I'm like, dude, you guys have like the climate of Africa. I tell him because they're not far off. You know what I mean?
You're not kidding at all.
It's so damn hot down there.
And the thing is, a lot of places they just don't have air conditioners in Europe. It's so weird.
What is with that? Like, obviously, you have a lot of family there. You know, on your girlfriend's side, you know, multiple generations, ancestors, essentially, that have grown in that land for so many years. What's the reasoning behind would you say, the adoption of, like, not having AC or, you know, maybe the buildings being outdated or, like, little things like that? Because I noticed when we were out there, that was, like, a main thing.
Like that there's no AC, you're saying?
There's no AC, no. Is that a European thing or is that
Yeah, honestly, I tell you the truth, I know that the AC is very, very expensive over there in Italy, from what I understood. And I think that, it's such a, here in America, we have that thing where it's like everything's about like comfort. Like we have to have AC, we have to have heat.
That's
God forbid you don't have AC, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So in Italy, like from what I heard, you know, it's very expensive out there. So a lot of the families, you know, they don't put it on. And besides for that, they also talk about the fact that they don't really like believe in the AC because they actually think that it actually winds up hurting your health over the long run. Yeah, so that's why they don't put it on. They're like, oh, it can cause this, it can cause that. So they don't actually put it on. In fact, I have a funny story actually. It's a really quick story, but like when I went over there in Puglia and I was at my friend's house, they just got like an AC installed in their house and they were like they literally had it on for like 10 minutes. And I literally heard like my buddy's wife saying like, turn that off, it's freezing in here. But in my mind, I'm like,
you're just not used to that.
My man, this has been on for like 10 minutes. I'm dying of heat. I'm sweating over here. I was sweating like a pig on the bed at night. And so like to them, it's like they just don't have that thing like us. Like we got to keep it on for like hours and hours of the day. You know what I mean?
For example, myself, dude, I sleep with my AC all night.
Oh, us too.
Me too. I like my room being like a freaking igloo.
Like
that's
the North Pole?
Like North Pole, exactly. And that was one thing that shocked me. Like when we were at that one Airbnb in Tuscany.
The haunted house?
The haunted house. Like the only like form of like place to cool down was like the air fan. That's all they had.
That was literally all they had.
Wait, what? That was the.
We're talking about
the ceiling fans.
The fans. Oh yeah, they're doing the fans in Italy all the time.
All right, so hold on, boys. I just want to take a couple of steps back because I want to roll with the travel theme. I feel like people really enjoyed the Albania, the last episode. Which, by the way, guys, if you didn't check that out, I'll throw a card up above or a link down in the description section. That was definitely one of the best episodes yet. But anyway, I know that Italy is one of those countries where every region is very different from one another. They have their own dialects, as we were talking about. So what was that you were telling me that, like, even in Italy, every single town will even have their own dialect and their own subtle differences. Like, just let the audience know a little bit about that.
Yeah, dude. Italy, just as a country in general, it has a huge line of history.
Right.
And back in the day, these little villages, like if you go to Italy and you look at these little villages, a lot of them have like castle walls around them because they used to actually like fight with each other.
Really?
Like, this land is my land. This, God forbid you enter my land. Like they used to fight over it and stuff like that. So every little village was essentially its own kingdom. So each kingdom would have essentially its own dialect, and it's actually that crazy that you can go. It's like going from here to like East Rutherford, like 10-minute drive. Like it's the same thing in Italy, and the dialect completely changes. The words are different. The pronunciation is different.
That's fascinating.
Sometimes you can go like 30 minutes away, and that guy can't understand that guy. So that's why,
nice.
And then they introduced Italian.
Not many people know that about Italy. I feel like that's a relatively unknown thing, that the dialects are that different, because they really are like different languages.
Oh yeah,
I know we were making a joke about it too, where it's almost like here, right? You go down south and people have a country accent. It's still understandable; they have their own slang. But I think to your point, it's a whole different level. Like, you could literally, like, they'll be speaking Chinese to them. Is it that big of a difference, their dialect?
Yeah, so it's funny, Tony. So like, I'll give you an example. Like, my fiance's father, they came from the Avellino region. So the towns that are like nearby, maybe 10 minutes away, 15 minutes, they can understand each other. Even like where my great grandfather came from, if you go 10 minutes away, they can understand each other.
Right.
But the words and the accent changes. It's not like here you go to Boston and like they might add a twist on like the word like car or something, like what do they say, like car, but you can still get it. Some words are completely different. Like, even people that are like 10 minutes away from each other, they have to say like, wait, what was that you just said? Because
that's hilarious.
They get the idea, but that's why the standard language is Italian. So if someone from the south went to the north, they would talk in Italian. They wouldn't talk the dialect, because they'd look at you and be like, what are you talking about?
But it's funny because my brother has a good friend. His name's Panuccio. Shout out to Panuccio. And Panuccio really should be here, like the fourth mic on the scene, because this guy is fascinating. And one of the things my brother was talking to me about is how these people live so off the grid, and they live so buried in the South that if, let's just say, he went to like Milano, right?
Right.
My man, he's not understanding a lick of what they're speaking.
Really?
Well, no, he might understand basic things because their TV's in Italian, etc. But he doesn't speak that language on a comfortable level like we do with English. Yeah. It's crazy how different the dialects are.
That's so interesting. And Dom, the times you've been out there, man, I gotta ask, like, what have you noticed is your favorite part about Italy? Like, out of all the times you've been, what keeps bringing you back?
Dude, I have to be honest, man. What I love about Italy, when I drive through Italy, I tell this to everybody, I always say it's like driving through a painting. You know what I mean? Yeah. Here, you go down the turnpike, you see those factories and stuff, and it's like, whatever, you're driving.
That says, like, drive safely or whatever.
Yeah. You don't but when you're driving through Italy, you could almost be driving through the ghetto, like, just to say. And it looks like a fairy tale. You know what I mean?
It somehow does.
And I was always in love with, like, the countryside. I was always in love with what they did in the countryside, the peas,
the foraging side, which we're gonna get to in a bit. But I do want to bring it back real quick. I heard him mention the turnpike. Like, we gotta bring to America the auto grills,
dude. Definitely.
Well, that's like a Wawa, though, isn't it?
It's like a Wawa, but on crack, and it's pretty much like.
So much better,
dude. It's so much. You were there, though. You were with us at the auto grill.
I remember when my dad was saying, "Oh, you got to stop and get your coffee in Cornetto," or as my dad would say, the
shout out Big Nick, by the way.
Nick, one thing I do got to say about the auto grill, at least from what I experienced, and I think it has to do a lot with just the way we operate as a country here. Like, dude, over there you have a cornetto, you have your cappuccino, you have your panino. Dude, it's fresh bread from the morning. It's fresh arugula, fresh mozzarella.
It is everything fresh in Italy.
Everything is fresh
here, you go get like a turkey sandwich, and you don't know what you're eating.
You're eating mystery meat.
Mystery. It says it's turkey, but it's like you don't know.
Garbage.
Don't get me wrong.
That's what it is.
I'm not gonna completely hit on Wawa though, because it's not.
No,
terrible.
listen, Wawa is fire, but Wawa's got nothing on the auto grill.
No. I was saying in general, like if you go to like one of those stops on the turnpike.
Like
in general, those places.
On NJ Parkway,
I love
say
Wawa.
this right now, they're all trash.
My man, I wish they were trash.
Dude, all they got is Burger King, and they probably have like one Starbucks.
And they're just like dirty.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah,
dirty.
They just don't look like you want to walk into that place.
No, dude. But Dom, so to that point though, like, what other things do you love about it? Like, first of all, so the audience knows, how many times have you been to Italy now?
Dude, I've been going every year, like, religiously for, what would you say? I mean, I don't even remember. It's probably been
years?
like, no,
but he's been going, like, let's put it this way.
I must have been there, at least 8 times, maybe?
Dude, let's put it this way. When I was in Prague in 2017, if I'm not mistaken, when I studied there, I linked with this guy like a broken necklace in Urbino. And, that was a fascinating trip. Let me tell you why, because I flew to Milano. If I'm not mistaken, I took a train from Milano Airport to Milano Centrale, or a bus. That's like the Milano main railway station. And then I went from Milano down to Pesaro. But I remember, and by the way, we're not going to get any political with this at all, but I remember seeing all of the migrants on the train. And I remember that being a culture shock to me because I never saw Italy like that in the past. I was wow, that's different. But anyway, that was the first time I met with you, and that was back in 2017. So you've been, and that wasn't your first trip in Italy. You studied in Italy before then. So you've been going for at least, like, I would say around 10 years.
At this point, I think it's been like 10 years.
Yeah, it's probably been something around there.
And it's
I lost count because that's how many times I've been there.
It's so funny. I gotta add this in there. I saw this meme online. I'll like pop it up on the screen. Yeah. It's like this one girl. She's standing in front of 2 doors, and on one of the doors, it's like, go visit another country, and on the other one, it's like, go back to Italy. And I saved it for this guy because like she's going back and forth, and then at the end she goes right back in the door to go back to Italy.
That theme song from
I think it's Wheel of Fortune.
Yeah,
right?
it's like the Wheel of Fortune, like when everything gets like dramatic and dark,
mysterious.
Yeah. So like they put that on. It's like, which door do I choose?
And I'm like, yo, that's my brother so hard.
Dom, let me ask you this: you've been in different types of regions, but I think personally yourself, just due to your family, you're kind of more out in like the farmland area. Where those small towns are slowly growing. Like, what have you noticed from your typical day-to-day New York City guy or Jersey guy compared to, like, the people out in the farmlands out there? What are, like, some distinct differences you're like, dude, these people are, like, nothing like Americans?
Honestly, dude, the life out there is just so much more slower. It's more at ease. Here near the New York City, everything's always rush. Gotta do this, gotta get my coffee quick, this and that. Everything out there, like, they work, but they, like, appreciate their life, like, as they work. Like, they have a much better, like work-life balance.
We'll go to a restaurant over here, and if we don't get a drink in 5 minutes, we're, like, losing our shit.
Yeah.
In Italy, they'll come to you in, like, 30 minutes, and then, like, we'll be all antsy, like, yo, where's the waiter? And then people like this, chill, man.
Dude, yeah, no, that's the big difference, though, I noticed. Like, even our experience out there together, like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not always the biggest fan because sometimes I'm just trying to go home. But it's a nice thing, dude. People are relaxed. Like, they actually want to, they want to take a step back and kind of smell the roses.
Yeah, it's just a very different life out there. I mean, they have in Italy, like, when they go home for, like, a lunch.
Right.
Like, not like here, like they'll go out to work, then by like 1 p.m., like early in the day, everyone's going home, the whole town shuts down.
Everyone goes home.
Yeah, they go home, they have their lunch, they talk, they have a good couple laughs, and then before you know, once what they call in Italy, minestra, essentially, or like what they make like for lunch, we'll say. Once that's done, then they basically go out and they drive back out to work, and then they work a little bit more, and then they come back home. It's just a very different. It's not like here you get like a 30-minute lunch. You're like rushing your sandwich down, and then you got to go back to work. Like, it's just a totally different ball game out there. You know
what? Tone asked about the people. Dom, you gotta tell the audience, you gotta tell the listeners the story about the kid in Italy that the kid that asked you how far America is.
No hate to this kid, by the way.
Yeah. No hate. It's just a very
blissful ignorance.
Yeah, it really just goes to show that a lot of these these faraway places, that there's a saying that they say in Italy, like, forgotten by God almost. It's just a way to say, like, it's a small town, it's in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
A lot of these kids didn't even go to school. They grew up in the country. They grew up,
of course,
in the trees, in the olive trees. And I had a kid one time come up to me and was just generally like. And I wasn't picking on him. I didn't look at him in a way like, oh, how do you not know that? But he just was like, oh, you came from America, like, by car? And I was like, by car? I was like, my man, I took the airplane to come here, you know. But that could be, you know, for many different reasons.
Right.
You know, it's just these are people, like I said, a lot of, you know, some people, you know, who grew up in the country out there, they just stayed. They didn't have money to go to school. They didn't have the opportunity like we have here.
That's not their fault.
And yo, you know what? With that being said, you never really realize how even poor a country like Italy could be, because Italy's like Western Europe, and most people when they think about Italy, they just think about like Milan, Rome, Amalfi Coast.
Right.
Not many people ever have the thought that these type of places exist in those deeper, relatively less explored regions of Italy, like Puglia, for example, which is where our family's from.
Dude, even the tiny islands. Yeah.
Exactly right. And you know, I wanted to ask you, Dom, I know you spent a lot of time with like the people out there, Panuccio, your good friend who we mentioned before. Like, what are some of the things that you took away from your experiences with the people? Like, for example, I remember we touched on foraging. I know you've always spoken about like wild oregano and other herbs. Like, let us in on a little bit of that.
You know, when I went out there, I realized that people in Italy, like they appreciate what the land has to offer to them. Not like here. Like when I go for hikes and stuff, I never see people like foraging here. In Italy, like you'll see that guy who'll be like, "Hey, what'd you forage today? What'd you get today?" And the other guy will say, "Oh, you know, I picked some mushrooms today." "What kind of mushrooms you picked?" "No, I picked the porcini today. I picked honey mushrooms today." They call them chiodini in Italy, but here it would be equivalent to honey mushrooms. And you know, there's a wisdomatic thing to it, because
surely,
you know, if you don't know how to choose the right mushroom, you know, you could literally die. Like in Italy, I've noticed that they take advantage of the land and what the land, you know, has to offer to them, you know? So it could be wild oregano, wild thyme, wild sage, wild rosemary that grows near the beaches. They'll go harvest mushrooms, and mushrooms is very, very dangerous. Like, you have to know your shit with mushrooms, because if you pick the wrong mushrooms, like there's certain mushrooms that are really good, but they have a poisonous look-alike, and if you don't know those differences, you could literally eat the wrong one.
You could find yourself in a bad spot.
Dom, is it like a delicacy out there, like in your region, where like eating mushrooms is like obviously the regular ones, not the ones that make you see like, you know, dinosaurs and stuff.
Psychedelic, no, just for cuisine purposes.
Cuisine, yeah. Is that like in that specific region, or you think it's across Italy to some extent?
Yeah, no, it's across.
Really?
Yeah, it's across Italy. For example, the buddy that I go with,
he's
from Salerno, which is like towards, like, we'll say Naples, that area, which is a good 4 hours away from Carpino,
right?
From the Puglia region. So it's a widespread thing, and every region, like for example, I'll tell you something interesting. In Puglia, wild mint grows.
Really?
Wild mint grows. But I've noticed they don't really use it that much in Carpino. But if you go like by Lazio, Rome, they use wild mint, and they'll put it like with their artichoke dishes.
Interesting.
Like they'll use, so every region's got its like own like,
it's got its own
tradition.
little. It's got its own. And you know what? You mentioned the word delicacy before, Tone. And you know what? I know Italy is a country that has plenty of fascinating dishes. Like I know they have this squid ink pasta.
Oh yeah.
I know that they have
the
wild boar. Like
dude.
You like the wild boar, because I remember one time this guy got the wild boar in Tuscany, and I swear to God, it smelled like a barn. That's the best way that I can. That's some gamey meat, and you never really see wild boar in America. That's something you never come across.
They have like the replica, but I'm pretty sure it's just pork.
Yeah, no,
like, it's not like the actual wild boar.
So they actually, believe it or not, and I found this out recently. I didn't know this, but going out like, you know, towards California, out that way, like, you know, out west,
they have a problem with it, right?
They do have wild boars. We don't have them over here, but people do hunt for them out that way, and some people do eat them. I don't know if they prepare them in the same way that they do in Italy, the way that I had it.
Yeah.
But
like a ragu you had, right?
Yeah, I had it like in a ragu meat sauce with the pappardelle pasta in the Tuscany region,
Really?
and that's a known.
All right, Dom, let me ask you a question, and I know that people that are watching this are genuinely going to be curious about this, and I don't mean to jump all around, but we're touching on a lot of interesting things.
Yeah, no worries.
For you, like, what is the most interesting and let's make it a two-part question. What for you is the most interesting and beautiful part of Italy, And then what is a part of Italy that you think is just very underrated and not...
Like a hidden gem.
Yeah, like a hidden gem. That's a great word for it.
Man, it's a very hard question to answer. I'm going to be straight up honest.
Italy, so
it's very hard to answer because...
It's hard to choose.
That's a political response.
I can't say... For example, I've never been to Sicily, but from what I hear from people, from what I see online, Sicily is a gem. Puglia, I've been there. I can confirm it's a gem.
I remember my brother. Shout out Carpine. I remember my brother. He used to tell me that Puglia has the best beaches in Italy, and I used to be like this, bro. You're BSing. I've never heard anyone say that. I'm thinking about like Amalfi area and Calabria,
like Como,
like different places in Italy. And then I literally Googled it, and like the first article I saw was like the best beaches in Italy are all in Puglia, and I was like, huh?
But yeah, you know
what I mean?
You mind if I add a point onto that of what you were
ahead.
just saying? One thing that I have to say, and I think a lot of like Italian Americans and Italians in general could agree on it, and even other people as well, is that every part of Italy you go to has its own gem. And I'm going to be honest, like if you go to Italy, if you go to Puglia, if you go to like Sicily, a lot of those like coastal towns, you'll get like that seafood. You'll get those seafood dishes. If you go towards like Avellino, like where my fiance's family is from, they have a lot of those meat dishes.
They're terrone.
They have the what do you call it? Chestnuts. They have a lot of the good nuts, like all these different, like they have the different types of trees that maybe in Puglia they don't have that, but in Puglia they have different things. So every region's got its own different type of thing and its own type of recipe. That's what's beautiful about it. And everywhere you go, the landscape changes. And like I said, it's like driving through a painting.
It's like driving through a painting. It really is incredible.
It really is. It really is.
You brought up a group before, and I had to ask this because it's just something I always think about. When you said like the like more of like the American Italians. Mm-hmm. So I think over the last 10 years has been kind of like a culture shift. And Nick, you probably know where I'm going with this.
I already know, yeah.
So obviously in Jersey, a big component of the Italian culture, I feel like that got brought out more than ever, was this Guido thing and like the Jersey Shore thing. How do Italians back home react to that? At least from you've seen, like, do they even know? Is Guido even like a term out there?
It doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist, dude.
It doesn't exist. They don't. I think that they're generally confused when they see that. They don't know what they're looking at. It's like a baby. It's like a baby being born.
Yeah.
And looking at like the Empire State Building, being like, "What am I looking at?" Like that's literally the comparison that I'll do. Like literally, like they don't understand this tea. Okay, the gold chain that comes.
What about the gabagool? Is that a thing out there?
You know what it is? I'm gonna explain what it is.
Oh my god!
I'm gonna explain what it is. It's that the Italians came over here to America.
Yeah.
Like my great grandfather, he came over here.
Of course.
So he was like, we'll say, true Italian.
Of course.
And he brought over a lot of those words, capicolo in Italian, and then. With the English mixing with the Italian, it became this dwarfed type of version of gabagool or whatever. So
why do you got to take a beautiful word and kill it?
But the thing is, it's also some people don't even realize, because in the dialect, a lot of times they just cut the vowel at the end. They'll just say instead of saying like capicolo, they'll say capagolo or capagul. Like capagula became like more of like an Italian American term that was essentially dwarfed.
Yeah,
it's like anything in life. Like the more you pass something down through generation to generation, it gets watered down. It's almost like a game of like telephone. You know what I mean?
And you know what?
That's how it is.
I love that.
I love that. Dude, Tommy, you killed it. I think what the Italian Americans have done to the Italian culture is they've massacred it. Like my thing is this, right? Why do these people feel so connected to something that they know absolutely nothing about?
That's so
because
true.
The Italian American culture is nothing like the Italian culture, and I'm so happy that you brought that up. Like for example, like
it's different
spaghetti and meatballs.
That's not a thing. Chicken parm.
These are not Italian things.
No, they're not.
And it's also like when I hear these people, like my brother and I, like we were out once recently. You remember where I'm talking about, and we heard this guy trying to speak Italian.
Yeah.
He was trying so hard. Shout out to the guy for trying. My man, he was failing terribly. But it was one of those things where it's like,
the guy. Was he mocking it or was he actually like genuinely trying?
I think that he was trying so hard to show that he was Italian with like 2 words that he knew.
Oh god, that's tough.
You know,
That's like people that, like, for example, they learn Spanish, but they only learn the bad words, and then they're gonna go and say that as if they know Spanish. You know what I mean? It's cringy, bro. It's cringy.
Yeah, you know what it is? It's like, it's kind of like similar to what I was saying before, that the Italians came over, then the kids grew up with maybe Italian parents or Italian grandparents, so maybe like they heard things and they kind of like they made it into like almost like American culture. They don't truly know, you know, the true Italian, you know, the way that they do it in Italy. You know what I mean? Like, it's totally.
But that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
It became its own culture here. Is what I'm trying to say.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
like if you want to compare Italian Americans and Italians, you may as well literally compare like Canadians and people from Zimbabwe. Because they are like totally different animals. Exactly right.
I remember you told me a story once. Like even the word, like even that word, they're like, what does that even?
Yeah,
mean?
they don't know what it is.
That's literally an Italian American word that people use towards Italians, you know, to discriminate essentially.
By the way, are we gonna get canceled for that? I just want to make sure that.
We're okay.
We'll bleep the word. Everyone knows a derogatory Italian word.
A little bit of educational type of thing here, but no, like, it doesn't exist. I remember I asked my buddy Italy. I was like, well, you know, do you understand the word? And he's like, gay is stupid. Like, he's like, well, what is this? He doesn't understand because it literally is a word that was invented here for Italian Americans, you know, Italians that came over here, and it was discriminatory. You know what I mean?
That's so interesting. So basically, for all the viewers out there, if you really want to indulge into true Italian culture, don't go to your local deli with the guy named Vito and go get a sandwich. Like, you want real Italian, probably go see an ancestor that lives somewhere in Italy.
Go to Rome.
Go to
Rome. Take yourself a nice tour. Do a tour in Tuscany. Something where someone could really just drive you around, where you can get a really good sense of the country and what it has to offer.
What can you tell us about the Italian wine?
The Italian wine?
Yeah, because I know you and your fiance's dad make Italian wine. Well, now your future wife at this point.
Yeah.
Like, make wine together.
I have to say, shout out to my fiance's father, Mario.
Shout out to Mario.
Shout out Mario.
He makes a great wine. He makes it. Him and his brother.
Run me the process. What does that look like for anybody that wants to understand the creation behind it, but also get a sense of how, like, the most expensive wines out in the world really the process kicks off.
So they order the grape. So
Okay.
you could either go to like a place to get the grape. You can order it. It comes in like crates.
I can't go to Walmart and get this grape though.
No, you can't. You can't go to Walmart to get the grape. No, you have to get you order it in advance.
Yeah.
And the grape comes in big wooden boxes, and you know they order all different types of varieties of grape. So the grape comes, and you know they have all different types of machines that essentially crush it, and there's a part of the machine that actually separates the stems and the branches of the grape, and it shoots it out in a separate section, and all the juice and the skin, it gets crushed, and all the juice comes out into essentially big vats.
Yeah.
And it's just constant motion of getting the crepes and throwing it in the machine and bringing the crates to the machine, and it's this whole long day affair. But it's very fun, I have to say.
Yeah.
It's spend quality time. You do it, and then I don't know, like I don't know how to
details?
say, like scientifically, like
What's
how
going
long.
on, yeah.
I know everything has to be very, very clean. If it's not clean and like a little bit of bad bacteria goes in there, your whole wine batch is completely ruined.
What makes wine good? Like what is the difference between the $5 foot wine? I think it's something like barefoot to your like freaking premier
Brunello,
the Montalcino. Like, what do you think? Is it the grapes? Is it just the process? Is it the age? What do you think?
You know what? It's everything combined. Honestly,
makes sense.
It's first of all, you have to know how long the wine needs to take to ferment before, you know, like when you can bottle it. I know, again, I don't know all the scientific. You know, I wish my fiance's father was here so that he would be able to add to this. But I know it's a very, very long process. And, you know, I know that he has bottles that, for example, he puts wine in different types of wooden barrels that over time it gives the wine a different contrast. It gives it a different flavor,
That's
a different
amazing.
tone. I just had a
The
wine
world of wine is amazing.
Oh,
it
it's
really
incredible.
is. It really is. I just had a wine the other day. I was actually enjoying it. Tony, I wish you were here to have it. I don't think you were around that night, but I had a
It
glass
was
of
like
wine.
what, yesterday?
No, that was not last
No,
night.
two nights ago.
It was a couple nights back.
It was a Monday. It was Monday. Yeah.
Monday night, and I had gotten a bottle gifted to me.
We have wine tonight.
I'm down.
Yo, we're gonna have to go in the basement and tap into my sister's wine fridge. Shout out Sarah.
Shout out Sarah, by the
Shout
way.
out Sarah for that.
Exploring
Yeah.
France wine. You know what's crazy though? Real quick, really random fact. Speaking of wine, I was just doing some Google research before we got into this conversation, and the most expensive wine right now. I'm not even gonna try to pronounce the name because I'll get cooked online, but pretty sure I saw something like $45,000 for a bottle of wine. It's from France. It's like a very premier, probably was, I guess you'd call it aged.
Bro, when you drink
for many years,
that
yeah.
wine, better solve all your problems, bro.
I
45,000.
better make me start flying, man.
But some people just genuinely got it like that, bro.
Oh, they do, yeah.
You know?
They'll buy whatever, but no,
It's
that-
medicine. It's literally, it becomes medicine. Like I was saying before, like
Medicine.
medicine. It's like a broad term you could use. To basically say like it heals you essentially.
yeah.
It's good wine.
It's
you
that good.
feel
That's
good. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
So like when I was Tony, I was saying that like
Yeah.
I was enjoying this wine with my brother, and I found out that it was like when my fiance's father went to go get it, there was like dust on the bottle. It was old. It was like one of those bottles that like
The spider webs.
yeah, there were like spider webs on it. You would never even think to go get that bottle. And he's like, a lot of people like the more newer wine because it's more sweet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's like, not a lot of people like the old wine. In the family. And I was like,
course.
I like the old wine. So he poured me a little sip of it. My man.
It was a
It had such a delicious flavor of the oak barrel. He has like a French oak barrel
Yeah.
that he has, and it was so smooth and it was so good. That bottle vanished between me and my brother. That bottle.
Yeah, that
sure.
bottle went down quick money.
Dom, I was gonna say real quick regarding wine as well. You made a comment before when we like this a couple of days ago when we were talking about this. How does wine end up tasting like vinegar? Like, is it the preparation? Like, that joke you were telling me, like, if you go home and try to make your own wine, like, you come across a scenario where it just tastes like vinegar. It's not like what a regular aged wine will be. What do you think causes that?
Dude, to be honest, I think time. Time is a big thing.
Yeah.
Time could be very good in aging a wine properly, but
Right.
time could also be very bad in the sense that if it's not looked upon properly, it could essentially
ruin it.
become like we said, like you could basically use it for like a salad. And sometimes, like if you have a bottle that literally is like 13 years old that you completely forgot about, a lot of the times it becomes vinegar, as we say. You know, what
I
mean?
think that's largely based on what you said about how people are just very simply not storing it right. Because because I remember, and it's genuinely crazy. When my sis was in Italy, she sent herself back like crates of wine.
Oh yeah.
And I remember like they were saying like, oh, with this specific wine here, it's best enjoyed after 25 years.
Oh yeah.
This
Yeah,
wine
yeah.
over here is best enjoyed after 30 years. And it's like, wow, like
That takes an expert to know. Like, say, I wouldn't be able to elaborate on that. Like, that
Of course,
takes
yeah.
that takes like years and years of trial and error to know like that grape, like it was good for that. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
You know what was such a memorable experience that we did together was when we went to that one winery. Shout out to Argiano. And
Yo,
Montalcino.
Argiano is the shit. If
It's
you are going to Tuscany and
incredible.
Montalcino, Argiano is the spot.
And it was just so cool, like, first and foremost, like, going through the vault, understanding the process behind it. And then in that one room where, like, this wine was this, like, I don't know if it was a white wine or what, but each bottle was worth, like, $50,000 and it's been stored for, like, 20, 30 years. Like, just, like, seeing how not only big and expensive that land is out there, because I was actually looking at that as well. Typical 1 acre out in that area of the Brunello, where the Brunello's made, 1 acre of land out there is close to $500,000 per acre. And keep in mind, with the Argiano was probably what, 100?
Yeah, it was a
150?
massive problem.
So
yeah.
you could imagine how expensive wine country is out there. But I do gotta say, I think for anybody that wants to learn about wine, or and for someone to me who never had a glass before I went out there, it just makes you appreciate the whole process and the taste. That's why now I was like, hey, you got some.
Yo,
wine?
by the way, we better get like a discount next time we're at Argiano. Or some
Oh
shit.
yeah, no,
You know
for
what I mean?
sure. Or at least give us another tour. But this time we need a new tour guide. And
We
won't say why, but
we won't touch on that. We'll probably
That's going to be in the explicit version, which you guys can catch on Spotify.
Yeah, we'll
that was so poor Dom's face when he saw that.
My eyeballs popped out of my head that day. But
no, Dom, yeah, definitely got to say wine is something else. To really wrap this conversation up, though, when it comes to wine, or if you can remember, what was like one of your either favorite bottles that are memorable to you that you've gotten, or your favorite wine that you've experienced in what town? Tell me a little bit about that. I'm sure you had your fair share of glasses out there.
Man, dude,
there are too many to count because then again it is Italy.
Dude, I have to legit be honest with you. I'm not even kidding. I think my fiance's father makes some of the best wine in the world. I'm not even kidding.
Are you just saying that because he might be listening?
No. I'm not kidding. Like don't get me wrong. Like the wine out there is delicious wine, but like he grew up like making it like as like a young child, and I have to say like his wine is legit like delicious. Like. Delicious, like his wine. Like I'm not even kidding. Like
it's
some
homemade.
of his, it's homemade, and a lot of homemade wines that you get from Italian Americans, like you try, you're like, oh, what the hell is this? Like you get that reaction a lot of times. But I'm not just saying this because it's my fiance's father. But I have to be completely honest. The wine is really, really, really good. It's and you know it. You tried one of the bottles, dude. That bottle. I'm not like without a joke. If someone were, if he was to sell that. Which he wouldn't, but like, if he was, one bottle would cost easily $500. You think
500 beans?
Easily $500.
Easily. I believe the guy genuinely does know what the heck he's doing. He's got a good mind. I'm not saying
that to brush up against him or however you want to say. I'm being completely honest.
Dom, you know what's so crazy though? Because we talk the same thing about when you make your pizza. Like you'll go out and you get a pie from like Plaza, right? Shout out to Plaza Pizza, but. You pay $25, and to be fair, it's not gourmet in any way, shape, or form. But $25 for a pie, like nowadays, is kind of the standard. But when I eat your pizza, right? Like, dude, I would pay freaking $50 for a pie of that. Like, run us through the differences you've seen, at least when it comes to pizza too, because I feel like wine and pizza pretty much go hand in hand, especially out there. Like, I feel like you would have a glass of wine with your pizza.
You know what it is? It's like when you make something homemade, I just feel like you put like your soul into it, like. You watch like how much cheese you put. I feel like and I love Plaza Pizza, but like honestly, like, I enjoy Plaza Pizza. Like I just had a slice. I always tell them make it well done because I enjoy like when the slices. I don't like when the pizza's like but not just like a lot of
we gotta get Dave Portney on here for that.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, so I think that with the pizza, it's one of those things where it ultimately comes down to the ingredients.
Oh yeah,
being made homemade. Like one of the things that my bro does is he uses the sheep cheese, right?
Dude, pecorino. And
with your homegrown, what is it? Do you use your homegrown oregano?
I do.
You do, right?
Yeah. The one that I always tell you could shoot it with a machine gun. That's M16 and it comes back every year.
That's hilarious.
Let me tell you, even if you wanted to get rid of that, you would not be able to get rid of that. You could rip all you want.
It's like a bamboo.
Yo, listen, I do want to say, guys, like I had an awesome time with this episode. Like, Dom, I appreciate you pulling up on the pod. And I think that, like, this episode 1,000,000% deserves like a part 2.
Oh, 100%.
Because Italy's one of those countries
we didn't hit everything.
Yeah, like Italy's one of those countries where there are just so many things that are of interest and have crazy historical significance. So we're definitely gonna run back another episode with Dom. But I appreciate you guys rocking with us. This has been episode 17 of the Iconic Pod, and keep your eye out for us, guys. We're on the come up. We're the fastest growing pod in the North Jersey area, and
we're the number one pod in Secaucus. So what's up?
The number one pod in Secaucus too. So make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, drop the video a like, and again, Dom, thanks for coming out, bro. I appreciate you coming on the pod.
Thank you very much for having me. It was an honor.
Buonasera, Dom.
Buonasera.
You did say that right, Tony.